I'm turning my paper horizontal because I'm gonna have the branch go this way. And with my pencil, I'm just gonna sketch where I want to place these blossoms. And I'm gonna just start with this side and then actually add the blossoms in later so they aren't overlapping. This is the branch where it starts out from. And for the flower shapes, I like to think of them as like stars because they have 5 parts for the petals. There's like the head, arms, legs, if you're thinking of like a starfish. And the petals are really kind of oval shape, maybe a little bit round. Let me actually bring this a bit, oops. Let me bring this a little bit closer to you so you can see up close. Sometimes what I like to do to start with the flower is draw 5 points and then add the petals to that. That kind of helps me place them. And this way, sometimes it makes it easier for me to figure out where to put the petals and make sure that they're evenly spaced out. So I've got these 5 points there, and with those 5 points, I'm going to use them as my guidelines. Now, I think I spaced them out a little bit too much, but I can fill this in later. So these shapes are something like this. They're like, I guess kind of like a round fan in a way. And these dots that I just drew are the bottom parts of the petals. These can actually overlap more for cherry blossoms. I'm gonna use the eraser on the end of my pencil here. I usually don't recommend that eraser, but I didn't pull out my handy dandy kneaded eraser. So I just pulled those in closer where the points kind of were. Now that's kind of evenly spaced out. And if anyone's got any questions at any point, please feel free to just unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer any questions anytime. And I'm trying to get this on a separate window here. Okay, bring this back. So once you've got one, we can make several. And this image, some of them are just buds. The buds are like little oval shapes. So if you were to add a bud, like say right here, I would just do a little stem, add a small oval right there. And for another bud, that could be another circle. For the next blossom, I can do something very similar with the first one. I know in the reference it doesn't exactly look like that, but just to keep things simple, I'm gonna do the same thing. This time I'll put my dots a little bit closer so it's easier to make sure they overlap properly. Hello, Michelle. Welcome in. No worries, you didn't miss too much. We did, though, have a vote on what to draw or paint today, so unfortunately you missed the vote, but it was a unanimous vote for cherry blossoms. So that's what we're working on right now. Okay, I've got my 5 dots here. With the 5 dots, I'm gonna draw these fan-like shapes. This time I'm letting them overlap. In the reference image, they are overlapping like that too. Oh, and Michelle, you probably can't see the reference image, so let me put it in there again. Hold on. There we go in the chat. Overlapping petals might look nice, especially with the translucent paint. Do I need to pause for anyone? Anyone need more time before I draw the last blossom here? I shouldn't go ahead like that. I'm good? Okay, thank you. Okay, then for the last blossom, this one's a profile view, so it's on the side, which means what I'm gonna do is draw more of like a trumpet shape, because that's what it looks like to me. So there's a U shape facing the right here, and then the petals are protruding from that open spot right here of that U. So it's like a cup. One can go right in the middle. Next one on this side. And then the third one there. The other ones are behind these petals, so we won't be able to see them. I think that's a good start. I left some space up here for more flowers later if we can get to them. I'll do it later. Let me make sure. I look pretty big on the screen share here. I'm going to shrink myself so I don't cover the painting. There. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Anyone need more time before we get into the painting portion? You can just raise your hand if you need a little bit more time. No? Okay. Here we go. So this is always my favorite part when we start to put in colors and use the paints. So if you're like me, before we start, you don't want the pencil lines to show and you drew them kind of dark, you can gently erase them with an eraser. I'm gently rubbing across the page here with my kneaded eraser, which I like way more than the rubber eraser because it doesn't leave behind eraser shavings. Now I have my light outline. So for cherry blossoms, since they are a light pink color, I'm gonna find a red in my palette. In my palette, it's this one. I'm not gonna use my other red because that one's more orangey and it's gonna look more like an orange red. This one is more of like closer to magenta if I had to say where it is on a color wheel. And I'm picking up a lot of water, so if you're watching me, you're seeing me dip my brush into my water cup like 10 times in a row. It's because my brush is a bit small and I chose this small brush on purpose since the flowers are small. And so the consistency is, it's really light. This is like a light tea. It's really thin, not creamy like a really concentrated mix. And with this, we can just go ahead and fill in these petals, the ones that we had drawn. And feel free to fill in the center too. I know on mine I have a gap right there, but I'm gonna fill it in. Oops. Fill that in all the way. And if you're using enough water for this effect, which means your surface is shiny with water, what we could do is drop in a darker color like we see in the reference to have, it's like a maroon color, I think. That's what it looks like to me. It'll spread and bloom from the center. So you want to make sure this is still wet when you do that. And I know because I can see that shine, which I'm showing on screen right now. I don't want it to start drying before I put the darker color on there. So as soon as I can, I'm going to go with this red that I used and just make it really concentrated. So going right in there with the brush without really adding any water. That looks much thicker and darker. Just drop it right in the center. And if you've got enough water, it'll bloom just like that. If I keep dropping my paintbrush in there with this concentrated red, it'll just spread even more. I forgot I put Laufey in my playlist because I was trying to make a Valentine's playlist. I did a paint and sip event over the weekend for Valentine's Day. It was really fun. So for newcomers and hello Zoom user, Uh, if you need or have any questions about this technique, let me know. It can be tricky to master, but the key is to make sure your surface is wet. Zoom user, I would love to know your name if you don't mind sharing, but I'll call you Zoom user for now. We're doing cherry blossoms. If it wasn't easy to tell, we did it by vote today. And for you, here's the reference image in the chat. And because my paper is tilted, this is blooming downwards. Gravity's pulling it down. I don't really want that, so I'm going to go back in with the wet brush and kind of pick it back up. This is a way of kind of erasing. Yeah, if you take water or a clean brush, and what I mean by clean is it's been rinsed and it's either it's dried out, so I'll dry it out on my paper towel. If you've got a dry brush and you apply it to a wet spot on your painting, then it'll act like an eraser and it'll pick up whatever's on the surface because it's wet. So this brush becomes a sponge if it's drier than your painting. That's a tip for erasing stuff or removing stuff. So I'll go ahead and do this again with the other flowers here. Same process. So taking this light pink, I'll do the same thing with this bud here too. I'm gonna use that dark red on the end that's touching the stem. So everyone, you can keep painting along as you choose, and if you want to see how I'm doing it, I'll explain as I go. I'll be demonstrating this technique multiple times in case you miss it, because I'm going to do it for every blossom. So right now I got that wet layer, and I'm dropping in this darker color on top. And it's going to bloom from there. I can make this a little bit more of a bud. So that's one end. And then I have another bud there. I'll do the same thing. One thing I want to make sure you do if you're doing this technique is that you're rinsing your brush in between each color. Right now we only have these two colors, but just to make sure the dark red doesn't get mixed with the light red, I am rinsing my brush every time I change colors. So if you notice your paint isn't wet and your second drop of color, the darker one, if it's not blooming, then on the next one, try using more water to make sure you've got that shiny surface. And oftentimes I'll have to tilt my paper or tilt my head to see if it's wet enough. If yours is super wet and it's puddling, then you'll have blooms that go in unpredictable ways and directions. And that's cool if you want that effect. But if you don't, then make sure you remove that puddle before you add color. And that will be either with the corner of a paper towel or with a dry brush. No puddles if you don't want crazy wild blooms. But if you want them, then that's fine. So I'll finish this up here. Anyone got any questions, or am I going too fast for anyone? Tell me to slow down. I'll take the silence as no requests. I love these cherry blossoms as a subject matter because they're very pretty and cute and also simple in shape, in my opinion. They're composed of 5 petal shapes. Let that bloom. I haven't done this yet, but if you want to try like darkening the edge of the petals, you could drop in that darker red on the outer edge here. So I've dropped a slightly darker red, not as dark as the center, but these are going on the outer edge. Kind of gives it an outline kind of effect. That's an option if you're interested. Oops, I keep doing that by accident. Does everyone have a good feel for the technique? Anyone struggling? Is the water not blending for you? Because that's pretty common. It's sometimes it's really easy to accidentally make it too dry or too wet. Oops, sorry. I'm just trying to look at the file. I need to move it over. There. This example has some nice details on it. There are, I believe it's called stamen, that's coming out from the center, the thin lines with the dots on the ends. That would be a good detail to add once this layer dries. While this is drying, one thing we can work on is painting the stem. Does anyone need more time before I paint the stem on the side here? Actually, we have it in multiple places where I can fill it in. Good question. In this case, I didn't. I have my pink, this light pink was my initial layer. And while it was still wet, I mixed a very dark red and dropped it in the middle. What you're asking is kind of similar to, it's another method that would work as well, but I went directly in with that light pink. Okay. Sounds like I can move on to the next step. So this stem is a dark brown. I have a dark brown in my palette. Because it's dark, I'm going to make this really concentrated. That's too thin. I've got to use a lot of this. And use a lot of water to activate this paint in particular. If I may ask, what brands of paint are you using for today? I know every brand is different, so it can impact how your painting turns out, how it looks. If you don't mind dropping in the chat, Winsor & Newton Hotsman. Elizabeth, that's a great one, especially for beginners. It's very budget friendly. I have my own set of tube paints of Winsor & Newton Cotman too. Okay, for this I've mixed brown with a little black because my brown isn't that dark. For your own palette, you can play around and see what works for you to produce a dark brown. And the stem is pretty straightforward. I'm just gonna follow my line here. And I want mine to be a certain thickness, so I'm pressing down my brush to get the thickness I'm looking for. Because I'm using one of my smaller brushes, I have to press down quite a bit to get the bristles to spread out enough. And if you look closely at the sample image, the reference image, the branch or the stem has a few knobs sticking out. I think those are nice details to add to make it look more lifelike. I believe this is like a separate stem right here. And I'll continue to add brown where there is stem. So there's another one right here in my painting for this bud. And it's thinner there because it's going directly into the bud. So for thin lines, you've got to use the very tip of your brush. That means holding it more perpendicular to the paper, closer to 90 degrees. If you want a thicker line, you can go at a lower angle, closer to the paper. This is maybe 30 degrees, and then press down, because that uses up the entire width of the bristles if you do it at a lower angle. The very tip is the thinnest, of course. So zoom user, you've got also the Winsor Newton. Elizabeth, are you saying you need a larger palette so you can put in all the colors? Oh. Oh. Mm. Gotcha. Oh. Monochromatic, is that what you said? Gotcha. Okay, okay. Yeah, there are some colors you just can't produce from mixing other colors. And it's nice to have those options. Good to know, good to know. Hi, Jean. To change your name, I think what you can do is, if you look for your name under the participants list and then right-click your name, if you're on a computer, there's an option to rename yourself. That's one way to do it. But thanks for letting me know. On your phone, gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I don't know how to help you there. I could look it up, but I'm gonna, I'll focus on the painting for now. At least I know you're Jean now. Okay. I think I've finished my branches. The final details for the flower, we can do the stamen. These are going to be really thin lines, so if you can use the smallest, pointiest brush that you have, that would make it the easiest to do. Smaller brushes are really good for fine detail. This is still my smallest one, so I'm going to stick to it. Now, these lines are kind of like a, describe it as, you could use brown. I think the same red that we used earlier might work too, but for contrast, I'm gonna choose brown. I have a brown that's like a cinnamony brown. That's kind of a tongue twister. I'm using this so that there's a contrast in hue. Hue is like where it is on the color wheel. I don't want to use red because it might not stand out. And this light brown should be fine. These are going to be really thin lines that are radiating outward from the center of each flower. If you have white, an opaque white, that would look great too. And by opaque, I mean it's not see-through. Because if you have a pretty clear white, it's just going to be invisible. So very carefully, I'm painting these very thin lines. This takes a lot of motor control and can be very tricky to do. I have to put the bottom of my hand like the side of my pinky to stabilize my hand and make sure it doesn't shake so much, because this has to be a very delicate touch. And these lines, you can put in a lot. I think cherry blossoms have many of these. Almost looks like fireworks. And just to show what it could look like if you have an opaque white, I'm going to add some white ones too. Hopefully mine works. Some of the watercolor sets, the white isn't very white. I just don't use them. But this set, I think it's pretty solid. Some of them are so transparent. I'm like, what's the point of having that white in there if you can't see it? It does make things look a little bit creamier sometimes, if they're not that opaque. But to get this really opaque, I have to make it really thick. So not so much water, a lot of pigment. Okay, I'll try the same thing here, but in between the lines I painted. This kind of works. And one thing to keep in mind with watercolor, it dries different than how it looks when it's wet. Typically, it dries lighter and a bit more dull. That might be something you've noticed with your paints. So with that awareness, when you paint, you can make it a touch more saturated than how you would like it to be when it's dry. So make your colors more intense than you want them to look whenever you're painting. That's one of my tips. I'm going to continue with these lines from the center. The white on mine doesn't stand out that much, so I'm going to go back to that brown. So at the end of the class, I'm always going to drop a survey for you to fill out if you so choose for feedback. And I'd also love to know just during the class right now, if you don't mind sharing what brings you here today. Like, are you here just for fun? Do you want to learn about this medium? You want to paint with other people in the community? Or you're just bored and looking for something else to do? That's a totally valid reason. I am very curious what brings you here today. Because all I did was make an Eventbrite page and wanted to see who would join me. Get better at watercolors. That's great, Michelle. That's a good reason to be here. All reasons are valid. Same for Susan. I noticed there are a lot of people offering watercolor classes on Eventbrite. I think some of them are free. So I wonder what brings you to this one in particular as well. Anne is looking to get better at watercolors and paint with people. Awesome. Teresa's here to learn to paint from me. Happy to hear that. Elizabeth Parts, learn more techniques. Art is therapy to you and to be in a community and nice people. Ah, you're in the perfect place. Yeah, I'm happy to see you coming back every week. Makes my heart happy. And I would say the same for myself. Art is pretty therapeutic for me too, especially watercolor. It's very relaxing. People tend to say watercolor feels very relaxing. Oh, I just noticed we're over time. If anyone has to go, you're welcome to hop off. I tend to go over time, I've noticed. This is my third one. And you're welcome to stay. I think from now on I might be sticking around for an extra 15. Michelle, that looks really pretty. I love how you used, it looks like green or a blue color to outline your flowers there. I hadn't thought of doing that. And is that a frog with a dragonfly? I think it's so cute. It's very painterly, the strokes that you made. Thanks for sharing. And of course, you're all welcome to share your paintings. You can show them on the screen or take a photo and upload it to the chat. I'm happy to see everyone's work. And of course, sharing is optional, no pressure. This is a no pressure environment. Oh, I love it. I love it. The really delicate strokes there. Well, before, I'll just drop this link in case you want to save it. It's a bunch of links, but I have one link for sharing this class. One is my recommended supplies list. One is for feedback, and one is for leaving me a Google review. I'm throwing a bunch of stuff at you. And also my website at the bottom. So if you enjoy this session, of course, I really appreciate it if you can drop a Google review. If you hated it, you can give me some feedback in the survey below. And yeah, if you want to invite friends, family, the Eventbrite page, of course, you can share that. For me, these sessions are really about painting with others and having a good time and sharing techniques for anyone who's interested. And it's just meant to be a relaxing painting environment. No pressure, work at your own pace. No one's being graded. Unless you want to be. Thanks, Anne. Thanks for joining. You're welcome, Susan. Feel free to hop off anytime. No need to stay if you've got to run. I know these were meant to be half an hour long, but we tend to go over because I think having too much fun. So did everyone like the option of voting for the painting? Should I keep doing it? Yeah? Okay. I'm open to any objections as well. You're welcome, Jean. If I had to add one more detail to these flowers, by the way, it would be a little, like a tiny dot on each end of the stamen. I think that's very, that's a characteristic of cherry blossoms. Little dots here. I think this is what distinguishes the cherry blossoms from other flowers. These tiny little stamen. You're welcome, Teresa. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Michelle. Oh, Michelle left, but I saw her message. Thanks for joining, everybody. I'll be here for a few more minutes to answer any questions and add just a few more details to my painting here. I'll go until 11:45 Pacific, so 6 more minutes. My last detail is going to be a very light pink outline for the outer edges of these petals. I think it would give a nice touch to the overall look. So I'm going back with my super light pink. And since this is now dry, I'm just going to outline it really gently. I think I'll even let these overlap. Like I have overlapping lines here. I'm going to let it go over. I actually don't know if I'm going to like this. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, I don't think I like it, but I tried it. I tried it. I can erase it by adding clean water to it and then dabbing it off. Same thought. Well, now we know. We don't know till we try, right? At least I can kind of fix it by adding water. This is how I erase when I mess up. I add clean water to it and then dab it with a paper towel. Whoops, sorry. I thought I blocked my notifications. It was a spam call. No, I know that happened last time too. If your brown's too dark, I'm gonna guess you need more water. More water to thin it out, maybe. Oh. Then is there like less contrast? Because it's not as dark. Oh. Yeah. So you did layers of the pink? Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, so those hard lines are a result of the paint drying at a different rate from the rest of the area you're trying to cover. So it'll have that hard line wherever it dries. If you want to avoid that, then I would recommend covering the whole area that you want to have the color on, where you want it to be smooth, even where you don't want it to bloom. Like on my flower here, I filled in this whole area with the light pink, and I had to make sure that that entire light pink area stayed wet evenly, so that it would dry at an like even pace, I guess, throughout. If I had like one spot, like let's say the left side was more wet and the right side was dry, then the right side that's more dry is going to dry faster, and then I'm going to end up with a hard edge when the left side dries. You know what I mean? So you want to just cover everything evenly if you don't want those hard edges to show up in the middle. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the blobs can help a lot because then you don't have to think about the shape. You're just filling it in. And since you mentioned that, maybe next time I'll go over more how to make sure that the blends are smooth, because that is, for me, that was like the hardest thing to figure out when I learned watercolor, is how to make the blends blend smoothly. And it's a matter of controlling how much water you have on your paper and how much you have on your brush. That's the water control that everyone complains about when they start watercolors. That's the hard part. So as long as that surface that you're painting with the blend, it's you've got a smooth, consistent water or level of water on there, then it'll dry evenly. Sometimes having that hard edge show up comes from it overall being too dry, and one part will dry faster. So it might mean adding more water. Uh-huh. Mm. Oh, no worries. Ah. Okay. Yeah, that takes a lot of practice, so um, keep trying. Just keep trying. And then maybe I can show more close up how to make sure it dries evenly. But I think you're noticing what's going on and what needs to be adjusted, which is really good. Then you know what you can change for next time. Yay! Awesome. Yeah, every practice counts. You're welcome. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I'll see you next time, Elizabeth, Madeline, Grace, if you can make it. And feel free to fill out my survey for helping me improve this class if you can. I'd appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.